XTH Creates!
Well, hello there YouTube! Welcome back to XTH Creates. And don't think about the fact that I'm in the spare room and not the rec room. I may or may not have forgotten to record the intro. Idiot! Anyway, I'm XTH, and today we're going to be working on Sonic the Fighter's version of Sonic. So I used to play this game quite a bit on the Sonic Gems collection for the GameCube. This 1996 arcade fighting game, I wouldn't call it a favorite of mine, but I will say I really liked it from when I was playing it. And actually, Mom and I played it once on the main channel, like 9 years ago. But if you want to search for it, have fun. And I really wanted to have an excuse to work on a mod for the classic Sonic figure, the 4-inch one from Jakks. It ended up being quite a process, as you'll very soon learn, but it did teach me a lot of things, and ultimately I'm happy to have done it. And that now I understand how the Jakks body works. First things first, well, you know our base, so let's get started. So this time, the files for the head, shoes, and gloves come from the courtesy of Just Musa. So it's them that I'm thanking this time around for making this possible. And they've got a bunch of really nice mods for Jakks figures, actually. I've already went ahead and downloaded the Goal Ring. And I also really would like to do the SA2 Sonic and the SA2 Shadow mods, so if you want to see those, let me know. Okay, I really have to get better at using the Anycubric's time-lapse function because I somehow managed to corrupt the file for this one. But when I go to print out the body, I do have the file for that, so you'll be able to see the time-lapse for that one. So all I'm doing right now is just trying to take all the supports off of the parts. So right now I'm working on the head. Now I'm just trying to stand little bits off of the head. I don't want to do a whole lot because with this figure especially, the entire point is that he is super polygonal and that's how he looks in the game. And here's our head. So now that we've got all of our parts done, I'm going to take the shoes, I'm going to put a little bit of clay into them, and while they're curing, I am going to start disassembling that Jakks specific figure. It's not going to take long. Even this amount is going to be too much, and this isn't a lot at all. So with Milliput, it's 2 parts, and you simply mix it until the streaks go away. Now once the streaks go away, you can go ahead and start molding whatever it is you're molding. So in our case, we're just going to be filling in those holes. Okay, so there's one shoe filled in. There's the second shoe. Now that the molding is done, let's talk a little bit more about our base figure here. So here's our classic Sonic. This isn't going to take a whole lot of time. I'm just going to use a heat gun, blast it on the figure, and then take off the head, gloves, and shoes. At least I wasn't expecting this to take a long time. I assumed that this classic Sonic was built like the modern one. All you really needed to do was just squeeze eyes, and it'll pop free. But the thing is, it doesn't quite work like that, as you'll be seeing pretty soon. So first comes the easy part, and that is getting off the gloves and the shoes. And there's our body. So originally, I was going to leave everything intact before I decided I wanted to use a full new body. And the reason I wanted to use the original parts was just because I figured it would work that way the best. But the problem is that having such a polygonal head, gloves, and shoes on such a smooth body kinda doesn't work too well. But I'll be showing you that later on. Let's move on to painting real quick. Okay, so I've got my Vallejo Sun Yellow, Vallejo Dead White, black, and this is a gloss varnish. And now we can get to painting. So I started on the head first. You'll notice that a lot of it is already painted. I actually did record the full footage, but a lot of it was too zoomed in for you to really be able to see a whole lot. So I'm sorry, but at least I had the sense to zoom it out. At this point, I don't know, man. I tried. So you'll notice that Sonic's head is a super light shade of blue. That's because I was originally going to just use it with the classic Sonic body as is, but truthfully I kind of thought it looked really ugly, like Force's classic Sonic ugly. So I did decide to go ahead and paint it a darker blue, which you will see in a moment. I'm gonna have to very much do a slight bit of sanding on the ears, mostly because of those stupid bristles that kept coming out. I'm gonna do that once the paint dries. While that's going on, I'm gonna do a little bit of white and pick out the shine in the eyes. You're probably thinking, wow, the shade of blue is far too bright. And you're correct. It is. But the problem is that if I made this Sonic the proper shade of blue, then I'd have to paint the leg joints of the Jakks Pacific Sonic figure. If I do that, as soon as I move the leg joints, the paint's gonna start to fray. Probably this one, Cobalt Blue, this would be a much better fit for the Sonic the Fighter's version of Sonic than the Jakks Pacific. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it anyways. You know what? Yeah, let's do it anyways. Truth be told, I'd rather have a more accurate color. So since I'm letting this head dry, I want to start doing the body. So I think I'm actually going to start with the skin tone. There's a smirk. Okay, and that should conclude pretty much everything. So I didn't really have to do any sort of paint job on the hands because they're already white. I did the eyes, the muzzle, the ears, repainted the head, and everything for the eyes. And I also did the shoe buckles and the red for the shoes. So I think we're good to go, and we can go ahead and move on. So now, as you can see, I painted the body and the head, and everything else is already finished. Now, it's time to start trying to put the head onto the body. So first things first, I went to use the heat gun, but it didn't quite work. I didn't want to heat up the plastic too much, because yeah, it probably would have accepted the head better, but there's also every chance that the peg would have just pushed the head inwards and it wouldn't have worked whatsoever. Which is something that does end up happening at one point or another during all this. So what I had elected to do was to start cutting off sections of the peg so that the head could fit on. Did it work? Not really. Okay. Now I just cut off some of the peg. So after failing a few times, I decided to say screw it, and I did something irreversible. I decided to cut off the entire mushroom, and now the head was far too loose. Okay, so I can always double over it. Okay, so now I've shortened the peg. Okay, so truth be told, now it isn't really fitting, but that's okay. To be honest, I don't really know how I feel about this body, but I'm gonna put the other leg on, and I'm gonna go ahead and put the gloves and shoes on, and we'll see how everything works. Okay, so tell you what, I'm really not a fan, and it's not because the head won't stay on. I can get some sticky tack to get that. So my problem is that essentially I have a Classic Sonic with way too big of hands. So this is what we're gonna do. So tell you what, I think we're actually going to scrap this torso. I'm gonna crack it open, get the arms and the legs out, and 3D print a new body. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and do that. And I also had another thought, which is to use these legs and to take plastic off of the ball joints at the bottom, paint them over, and then put magnets on the bottom of them, and then put magnets inside the shoes. I'm thinking that might be our best option, because I really don't know if I want to buy a whole nother figure just to use its legs, because, you know, Sonic figures can be expensive, because it's hard to get them in stores a lot of the time. Well, look at that! For once, I actually managed to get the time lapse for you. So this is just a proper fighter Sonic body. I had to size it up in Blender. I sized it up actually to the head that you had saw me painting earlier. Just like that, we're done, so let's move on. We now have our new body. Only problem is that I wasn't accounting for there not being a peg in the body. However, I have this little piece from a different custom, this little cylinder, that with a small bit of sanding should work super nicely as a very tight head joint. I just need to heat up this head a little bit to get the plastic to slightly move out of the way of the peg. But since I have this, I think what I'm gonna do is drill an appropriate sized hole into this body, stick this peg in it, super glue it in there, and then put the head on. So that way, we'll have our proper Sonic the Fighter's body, along with the head and everything, and I can just crack this guy open. I can just crack this body open, and I can remove the arms and the legs from it. Alright, so let's get started. Oh boy. So we've come up to this time, huh? Well, I suppose it was bound to happen at some point. So I was expecting this classic Sonic body to be a lot like the modern one, where all you had to do was squeeze the sides of it, you know? But that's not quite the case. So this classic Sonic body is actually held together really, really tightly with a bunch of glue, and it has a peg in the middle. All of which you need to get through if you want to get the arms and legs out. So, any sane person would have probably just said something along the lines of, okay, well, screw that, we're not gonna use these arms and legs, we'll just go ahead and, I don't know, use hobby joints and just make some custom ones. But you see, I'm a dumbass, so instead I decided to go through the pain of trying to crack open this body. I eventually got it open, but oh, it was far more of a process than I really would like to keep doing for customs. I actually ended up heating up the body so much that I deformed the legs by the time I was done, and wow, I really wasn't expecting to have done that, but oh, but yeah, don't try to make customs out of this figure unless you really have no intentions on taking apart the body. Just don't. It's held together really, really well, and you'll deform your parts before you get the body all away. But there you go. As you can see, I did end up being able to take it apart. Is just one hell of a process to get there. And now it is time to start drilling holes, ladies and gentlemen. So I've got my step drill bit, and I'm gonna be drilling 5 holes into this body. 1 for the head that cylinder can go into, that I was talking about earlier. 1 for both arms, and 1 for both legs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm drilling relatively slow here because I would prefer the plastic burrs to stay in longer strings than go all over in super small, like microscopic little shards. And now to ensure that the peg stays in the body with a little bit of super glue. And I'm ready to start putting the body parts in. At least I think I am. As I keep saying, this ended up being a much larger process than I really thought it would be. You'll see me doing this quite a few times, I'm sure. Repeatedly having to enlarge the arm holes and the leg holes and stuff like that. Because the mushroom pegs on classic Sonic's arms and legs are so much larger than the actual stick that holds a joint to the peg that you kind of have to go ahead and just keep extending the hole, or else, you know, the arm won't fit. But then the problem when you do that is that then the joint becomes super loose. Trust me, if I actually knew the arm sizes and stuff, I probably would have just did a boolean in Blender and just did exactly what Jakks did and just split the body in half and then just glue it together. But even then, you couldn't have guaranteed that the arms would be super tight there too. I don't know. This part was very much my least favorite part of making this figure. I enjoyed the painting more than I enjoyed trying to repeatedly do all this. So I'm putting super glue into those joints. I'm putting super glue into those holes because I've managed to make them a little too large. Woohoo! And I'm hoping that the super glue will close them up just enough that things will be a little bit tighter. Speaking of which, I'm also putting super glue onto the bottom of both of the pegs. So I've already shaved them down, and so my plan is to repaint the legs and have these magnets super glued on the bottom, and they'll attach to magnets that are inside the shoes. You know, just as I was saying earlier. So I'm fully aware that I've already painted the shoes and the head and all that, but I'm just trying to do some maintenance on the paint since I managed to mess it up with super glue on my fingers and all the heat and all that stuff. So I'm just trying to go ahead and fix up some of the paint applications and get the bottom of the shoes better, since for whatever reason it didn't print super well. So I'm trying to do what I always say and put on enough paint that it kind of makes up for it. And now it's time to get the head a little bit better. So again, I'm just trying to tidy up. Well, at first I ended up doing the wrong color here and it's a bit too dark. And I do have to go over it with the correct color. So I thought that it was navy blue and I believe it was cobalt blue. Yeah, so I actually got the color wrong, but that's not a problem. An extra layer of paint means that the layer lines aren't so visible anyways. And besides, I also have to get the body as well anyways. So now we are working on the blue of the body. So to be more specific, it's a Nick Pro Cobalt Blue color. It's the closest I could get to the way Sonic looked in Sonic the Fighters. It's actually not that entirely far off from the Jakks Classic Sonic color, but it is a bit darker and richer. So I did end up messing up slightly on this belly. Like you'll see when I go to put it down that there's a little bit of a blue scuff on the one side. But that's alright though, it's not like it's a hard fix. But I'm going back to the head and just trying to cover up that darker blue that I said that I got the color wrong on. And after that I just quickly went over the arms and legs. So you'll see me working on an arm. Should definitely dub this one over. So here are my pieces. So I put magnets into the feet because I wanted to make him taller despite him having a smaller head than the original Jakks Classic figure. And I did indeed decide to just scrap that original body. It's trash anyways, who cares? And so these holes that I did for the body, they don't not all of them fit very well, so what I decided to do was put some super glue inside of the joints to sort of create an extra layer of plastic that will hopefully allow them to go into the holes a bit tighter. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out my heat gun and we'll start trying to assemble this figure. So remember when I said I ended up really badly deforming the body while just trying to get the legs and arms in? Well, here's that time. So, as you can see, I've already got the head in. And the arms, at first, they weren't even hard to get in. But the problem is that since most of the body was hollow, you know, since I really didn't think about infill, they were loose. And things really didn't help when I went to start putting the legs in, because what happened there is that instead of the legs just going into the bottom would instead just push itself inwards. So yeah, that's why you only want to heat up PLA as much as you need to. Okay, so a little update. I decided to put some painter's tape onto the pegs of the legs so that they plug in a little bit easier. So the purpose of the painter's tape is to expand the bottom of the peg enough so that the whole thing can slide into this hole just fine. Because like I said, the body is somewhat hollow, so after the larger peg goes in, the legs are going to be loose. Because all you have is a smaller end of the peg going into the joint to hold everything in. But if I wrap some tape around that thinner part, I can make it thicker, and all of a sudden, boom, we have... Okay, so I think I got the joints pretty well in there. I think I'm relatively happy with that. So now I've got to go ahead and put the hands back on, because I already put the shoes back on. Sweet! Now I've got our hands on, so I think I'm ready to show you what he looks like finally. So here is the Sonic the Fighters figure. I do need to mold the tail because it broke while I was trying to put everything on. Other than that, I'm fairly happy with it. Truth be told, I definitely wish that I knew what the peg sizes for the Classic Sonic arm and leg joints were, because I could have just put those into the model and then printed it out, and I wouldn't have had to go through half the hassle that I did. Other than that, in terms of sort of proportions and all that, I'm happy with him. I think his arms and fists are long enough. His fists may be like a little too big, but man, Sonic's hands have always been huge. And I definitely would have made sure in terms of holes to try and Dremel the leg holes directly up inside the torso instead of at an angle. That way he isn't standing so unnaturally wide stance. And of course I had to put some blue tack under his right shoe so he actually stood. But generally, yeah, I'm pretty happy with him. So with that said, let's put him in a couple of poses. So, little update on Sonic here. So, now that all the plastic is all cool and stuff, he's not super floppy. Well, he kind of is in that leg, but that's the Jakks leg itself. That's not a result of anything I've done. But so, since I deformed the tail a whole bunch, I actually decided to cut off the tail of a modern Sonic and stick it on. So I'm gonna have to repaint the back here. Probably put a slight bit of milliput into the back of the legs, since I managed to deform the legs as well while I was heating everything up. But other than that, I think we're pretty much good to go. So, with that said, that is a Jakks Sonic the Fighter Sonic. And I'll see you in the next one.